Fear stops us from achieving our true greatness. Are you a professional woman who is feeling stuck, unmotivated, or burned out? Are you worried about your wellness? Are you letting fear stop you from crushing your goals? If you answered yes to any or all of these, then this is the podcast for you. Dr. Charmaine Gregory, night shift emergency physician, burnout thriver, and wellness champion, along with everyday heroes just like you, will explore how to face fear in our lives and emerge victoriously.
Hey, thanks for checking out this episode. Be sure to click the subscribe button and the notification bell so that you get notified when the next video comes out. It only takes 2 seconds to make 2 clicks. So let's do it. Let's get back to the video. Hello, Fearless Freedom Tribe. OMG. It is Dr. G here this week to talk to you. And guess what? I have company. Well, you had company, right? Well, maybe not, because I've had some solo episodes. But anyway, today we have the amazing, the extraordinary, the fabulous Kelle Sparta. And Kelly's going to tell you all about who she is and what she's up to. Take it away, Kelle.
Hi, I'm Kelle Sparta. I am a transformational shaman, and I work with people who are trying to have happier lives. So I walk people through the process of letting go of all their limiting beliefs and their challenging assumptions and all the things that get in the way of their happiness, and to shift their perspectives so that they can be less stressed, have less anxiety, and feel more comfortable and confident in their own skin. I do that both through emotional and mental exercises, as well as through energetic ones.
Wow, that sounds intriguing. That definitely does. Right? Especially the part about the energetic exercises. That's always like,
Yeah.
But you mentioned a couple of things there, and I am really, really curious beyond the energetic techniques. How did one become a shaman?
Yeah, I get that question a lot. It's very interesting, because if you ask every shaman about that, they're all going to give you a different story, but it all has the same theme. The spirit came up, grabbed me by the throat, threw me on the ground, and said, "You're mine." Right? That's really what it comes down to. Most people don't choose a shamanic path, it chooses them. So, for me, my mother was psychic when she was a child, and she was scared of it, and she put it away, and she turned it off, and she never figured out how to turn it back on again. And she was absolutely committed to the idea that that would not be my life. And so from the time I was 5 years old, she was bringing home personal growth courses, psychic development courses. We were listening to Seth and Ram Dass and Abraham Hicks and J.C. Knight and so many people, I don't even remember them all. I mean, she brought home Est, which was a precursor to Landmark Forum at this point.
Oh, wow.
It was the not kinder, gentler version. She brought that home when I was like
Landmark's
6 years
not
old.
That kind or gentle either.
Right. So. Exactly.
Okay.
So, yeah. So yeah, that's the short answer, is that, she just raised me in it. So it's as close to an apprenticeship sort of scenario as you can get without actually doing it. Yeah.
That sounds like some pretty high level training your mom was imparting on you. So that's
pretty
amazing.
Much.
That's amazing. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, I was doing self-hypnosis when I was 10. I was reading tarot cards when I was 12. Yeah, I've been doing this stuff forever. Yeah. Okay.
So natural path to become who you are now.
Yes. Yeah.
Fantastic. And then so throughout the journey, was there a moment, or were there moments where you felt fear? Did you ever have that?
Yes.
You ever have that feeling, the fear feeling?
Yeah. Kind of a constant companion. Yeah. If you live your life the way I live mine, fear and I are good friends at this point.
Oh, interesting. So now you got to tell us more. You got to tell us a story. Tell us your story.
Well,
tell us what happens when you face fear.
If you want to grow in your life, you have to go to the places that scare you. There's no option. So as a shaman, I am useless to other people if I'm not doing my own work. And so I'm constantly having to go into the places that scare me. I'm constantly having to look at the things that I don't want to look at. I'm constantly challenged to look in the dark places in my own soul and pull out those things that I've hidden away and bring them up to the light and go, yep, that's mine. I got to own it. I don't really have an option, but, so after a while, fear just becomes a friend. You start to recognize it as a doorway to initiation, right? It's like it's an initiation point to a new path, a new you, a new state of being, right? And so when you see fear as that instead of as this big old boogeyman monster coming to get you, then it becomes easier. There's an episode I love in Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And it's called The Fear Demon. It's in season 4. I don't remember which episode number it is, but if you go on YouTube, you'll find it. And it's a great allegory for what fear is. And basically the upshot is that fear becomes bigger the more you run from it. It becomes bigger and bigger and bigger the more you run from it. The moment you turn around and stare it in the face, it shrinks down. And that's the key with fears. You got to turn around and face it. Say, okay, what if this happens? Right? Because most fears are what ifs, right? They're all
Absolutely.
what if. Right.
And we do that so much, don't we?
Oh my God. And they're all things that almost never happen. Right. We're just like, what if? Well, what if something amazing happened instead? Right.
Exactly.
What if you what ifed in the other direction for a while? Wouldn't that be nice? Right. And so, most what ifs are things that are never going to happen. So simply turning and facing them and saying, okay, well, if that happens, then I'll do this is usually sufficient. Right.
Love it.
Yeah.
Because that is a very simple pearl that is very applicable right away. Okay. And so, but most of the time we are so caught up in the negative portion of that feeling, of that emotion, that we don't understand. And I tell people this all the time and they're like, look at me like I'm crazy. But, the reason why I started this podcast was because I have a fear of public speaking. And I decided one day that I was going to face that fear, basically, head on. So I became a public speaker and got on stages, and then I started a podcast, go figure. But anyway, so when you start to look at it, like you said, in a positive light, instead of giving it ownership of negativity, amazing things start to happen, right? Like you start to get energy from it, like positive energy. And then, of course, you can use it then to fuel your success or your progress. Absolutely. And tackling that thing, right? So I don't know if you have a fear of, I wouldn't say fear of spiders isn't a good example, but if you have a fear of,
no, but you're picking that up from me.
Is that right? Do you have fear of spiders?
Grandmother spider is my totem.
Oh my gosh. It's so funny. Wow. Look at that.
Yeah. I do a lot of work with grandmother spider and community building and web weaving and yeah.
Oh, wow. I
funny.
I didn't even know that. And look at that.
No.
That's pretty cool. That's cool. And so it's like, you take that. Okay. So say, for example, you have a fear of going on a boat. I don't know, for whatever reason. And then you before you get on a boat, you're like, oh my God, the boat's going to sink. Instead of saying those negative things, instead you could say, oh, we're going to go on a boat. We're going to get to go to places where we couldn't go by car. We're going to see the whales. I don't know where you are, but you're going to see the whales going by. You're going to get to see sea life, instead of looking at it like that. Right. Which is what you're suggesting, which I think is brilliant. People tend to look at it the other way. Oh, it's a Titanic. It's going to hit an iceberg, even though we're going into the Caribbean and we're going to sink. I'm like, really? We're going to hit an iceberg.
Which point, just go get yourself a life preserver, right? Just get a life preserver and then you can stop worrying about it. Right.
Exactly.
Bring one with you and then you can stop worrying about it. Right.
Yeah. It's just incredible how we work ourselves up in such negative ways. Crazy. When positivity just gives us so much more energy. It makes us happier. So
it does. Yeah, it does. There's also a trap to it though. And this is the thing that I hear from people all the time is that they're like, oh, I'm just going to be positive. I'm just going to look at the positive. I'm just going to look at the positive. And that becomes its own form of spiritual bypass. Everything that we do has to come with the balance of the other side, right? So you can't just be positive and not acknowledge the negative, because if you do that, you're doing what's known as spiritual bypass. You're going, no, I'm not looking at that thing over there. I won't look at it. No, you can't make me. I'm not looking. And it's still there, and it's still going to come and bite you in the butt. It's just, you're not going to see it coming because you're too busy looking over here. And so positivity, yes, absolutely. And you can't deny what's there. So they're both and. It's not either or, it's both and, right? It's don't get invested in the negative and don't get attached to the positive, right? Because if you invest in the negative, then you get into this negative spiral cycle. And if you attach to the positive, then you're feeling victimized and upset every time the negative shows up. You're like, but no, I was doing my positive thinking. It's my fault. No. Sometimes things happen, and sometimes things happen for a reason, right? And if we're not looking at the parts of ourselves that scare us, if we're not looking at the parts of ourselves that we think are ugly or not so acceptable, if we're not looking at those pieces, then they will come up in different ways, and that's what drags us down, right? So we have to be balanced. Yes, be positive. Yes, look for the positive, because you're really, really angled towards the negative, right? So we're looking for balance there, right? But we're not looking to swing from one entirely to the other, to the exclusion of the other, because that'll give us the same problem in the opposite direction as what we've got now, right?
Interesting. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, no, you absolutely have to acknowledge what you're dealing with. There's no doubt about that. Right. Yeah.
I can't tell you how many people I know who go, la, 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 there's no problem. And then suddenly, they're evicted or whatever. It's just like, no,
I see. Gotcha.
It's like,
gotcha.
You got to pay attention.
Yeah. You can't put blinders on. That doesn't make sense.
You can't put blinders on. And, the eviction is a more physical world thing, but it happens spiritually as well.
Interesting. No, that's cool. That is cool. Yeah. And then, so, I am also curious, how did you, so you said that your mom planted all these seeds, and then you also said that it was like a natural pathway that occurred. But I mean, to just make that decision, though, I think still requires something, right? It still requires something for you to make that decision and go that path, because you could be raised in a family of accountants, and all you can see around you is numbers, but you can make a decision when you are of age to do something entirely different. So there had to be something or a series of things that led you to make the decision. Yeah.
Well, so I went to college and I got married when I wasn't even done with college yet. This is my caveat emptor for those of you out there: don't get married before you're 28. Okay. Because at 28, your Saturn return happens and you're going to be doing something different. So, but I got married at 21 and divorced at 28.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But when I was married to an atheist. And so I really didn't do any of this stuff. Right.
Okay.
And, when I was looking for a change in career, I basically woke up one day and went, I built the American dream and I hate my life. Okay. I have a trophy husband. I mean, he was gorgeous. And I have a big house on a cul-de-sac with a dog, and I had a business that was thriving, and I was the president of a local charity. And from the outside, my life looked super successful. And I just looked at it and went, I hate this. My husband and I had been in a Cold War in our marriage for years. And the dog didn't like me. I didn't like the dog. We didn't get along. She was constantly, she was an alpha female, constantly vying for my husband's attention and literally shoving me out of bed at times. The business I had burnt out on years before, and I was hiding in the charity to try and make myself feel better about my life. And there was nothing. I mean, I had a few friends that I liked, but other than that, I was like, wow, I really hate my life. And so I razed it to the ground. I divorced my husband. I had him take the dog. I sold the big house I never wanted. I sold my business. I quit the charity, and I moved out of state to live with a bunch of people I met at the Renaissance Fair. My former business partner said I ran off and joined the circus, and he was not wrong.
Okay.
Yeah. So the Saturn return. The early midlife crisis, right? So, and then I that started me on a 4-year path of my own internal journeying. The people that I lived with turned out to all be shamans or magical people of some kind. And we worked with each other for 4 years in that house, and I learned ritual there, and I learned a lot of stuff there. And at the end of the 4 years, there was a natural ending point, and everybody's just started to move away. And I couldn't find a place to land. I kept trying to find a new apartment, and I got turned down and turned down and turned down and turned down, and nobody would take me. And I ended up homeless and living on, I was running a teaching circle at the time. And so I was camping out in guest bedrooms of my students. So a different day every week, I was at somebody else's house. So every day of the week, I switched houses. And that went on for about 6 months. And then I went to a retreat. I went to a festival, and I knew when I was leaving that I was not coming back anytime soon. I thought I was moving, but Spirit said, no, you need to just plan on not coming back anytime soon. You need to quit your job because you won't be coming back. And I was like, okay. And you don't want to have all your stuff in storage. So I scheduled to give away everything I owned. And the deal was, whoever came to take stuff had to help me cart off whatever was left to the local charity. And the day after I scheduled that, I landed in somebody's house and opened up their bathroom reading, and it was Lame Deer, Seeker of Visions. And I opened to a random page in the book, and it said the apprentice shaman before his initiation will give away everything he owns. And I went, I was like,
no kidding.
Holy crap. What does that mean? I don't know. Oh my God, I'm in trouble. Right. And so I was like, okay, noted. And so I went to the festival and I followed the signs, and that's a much longer story that's on my blog if you want to read it. And I ended up I ended up following some people home, pulling into Bloomington, Indiana at 5:00 in the morning, thinking, okay, this is going to be my new home. I pulled in, there was the sign, welcome to Bloomington. And I went, oh, this isn't home. Crap, I'm on walkabout. And I was like, oh no, right? So it never occurred to me that I was already on walkabout because I had been homeless for 6 months at that point.
And you have now no belongings, right? I mean,
yeah, exactly. Gave up everything I owned. And so I spent the next 6 months on the road and living on $350 a month of unemployment insurance and the kindness of strangers. And I went 14,000 miles in that 6 months, drove all over the country. And that was what taught me where I ended and other people began, because as an empath, I didn't know that. I didn't know who I was separate from other people. I always thought I was a reflection of others, right? I was a chameleon, and I took it as a gift. I was like, I can blend in with anybody. I can feel like I belong anywhere. And it's true, but I also had no clue who I was, right? And so that journey taught me a lot about that. It also dispelled some inner myths of my own. And if at the beginning of that particular part of the journey, I wrote this blog post that really outed myself around all my fears. It was the first time I was truly vulnerable. about how I was feeling about things. The first time I'd ever told anybody any of this stuff. And,
Wow.
so it was a starting point for me in a lot of ways. It was really where the rubber hit the road for me in terms of doing my deep work without having to have other people prod me into it, Yeah. So it was revolutionary for me.
That is an amazing story. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. That's amazing. I mean, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So, I just love how you're like, I was raised and my mom, she like basically was raising me up. And then she brought all these amazing trainings home, things that people pay like thousands of dollars for, tens of thousands of dollars for.
Mm-hmm.
And she like just, gave me the tools that I needed. And then I was a shaman. But look at the backstory. The backstory is like so good. Hey, it's Dr. G, and I just wanted to take a quick moment to thank you for listening to this episode. I'm so honored to have you here with me. Did you know that I can help you to get your own podcast started? With my podcasting launch course for professionals, I walk you through everything you need to know about starting a podcast. I'm with you every step of the way, from sign up to launching your show, with 5 episodes ready to go. There's a done for you version that's also available. If you would just rather just do recordings and leave the behind the scenes work up to us, then that one is definitely for you. But either way, we've got your back here at Fearless Freedom with Dr. G. Oh, if you already have a show and you need production services, we have monthly plans available for you. So check out the links in the episode show notes for more information. Let's get back to the show.
Yeah, well, there's a ton more than what I even said there. I mean, I could talk for like 3 hours on this topic because it was a lot of different pieces and parts. But I actually I have a podcast, Spirit Sherpa, and the opening and closing song on that podcast is a song I wrote while I was on walkabout, and I recorded it. And so that is the whole thing there. And so the main melody line is what I was telling people was true. And then the harmony descant over top is all the emotional stuff that was happening in the background for me. So it's really kind of fun from that perspective. Cool. But yeah, there's one other piece that I should probably tell you that came before the walkabout, which is the day that Grandmother Spider claimed me.
Okay.
And that was, I was living in this house with these other shamans and people, and we were all, Renaissance fair workers. So we're all performers too. And, it was really a great place to live. And I went to the basement for something, and I don't remember what now, but it was one of those old Victorian houses where the pull switch is in the center of the room that you have to pull, right?
Yeah.
And it was at night. And so it was pitch black, and I go walking in, and I'm like feeling my way around trying to find the pull switch. And next thing I know, I feel spider webs all over me. I was like, oh, I don't need whatever it is that I was looking for that badly. And I turn around and I look back left, and I'm like, I'll get it in the morning when I can see the spider webs, right? And so I came upstairs and, went to bed and came back down in the morning, got whatever it was, but there were no spider webs in the room. There were none. And when I thought back on it, I had no spider webs on me when I came up the stairs from the basement the night before. And so I went to my friend and I was like, Ken, there are no spider webs. And he said, oh, Grandmother Spider's calling you. And I was like, okay, what does that mean? Because I had never heard of a shaman before this. And he said, well, you should really listen to her before, she does to you what she did to me. And I was like, well, what did she do to you? And he said, well, she hatched an entire egg nest over my bed, and they came down and feasted on me in the middle of the night. And I was like, what? Yeah, I don't want that.
No.
I don't want that. So I'm going to listen. Right? Well, like, how about no? So So I was like, what do I need to do? What is it? He's like, well, sit down and talk to Grandmother Spider and to ask her what she wants. She's claiming you. That means that she's claiming you for the path of shamanism. I'm like, I had been identifying as a witch up until this moment because that was the only path I knew, right? And I'm like, okay, right? And so I sat down and talked with Grandmother Spider, and I didn't get a lot out of the conversation. I just got a yes, take this journey, whatever. And before I left for this retreat, this festival, I had had a dream about my back covered in tattoos of different totem animals.
Okay.
And so there were 6 animals in total. And the first one was Grandmother Spider. And so before I went to this festival where they had ritual tattoo artists on site at this festival. And before I went there, I had emailed saying, hey, I don't know if I can reach you. I put it up on the board. They had a BBS system. That's how old this was. A bulletin board system, right? And I said, I'm trying to get hold of Abraham to get my tattoo, and I've been told he's the guy I need to talk to, blah, blah, blah. And I put it out there like, 9:00 at night. Well, somebody saw it and grabbed it and forwarded it to him directly. Okay. And he reached out to me via email at 1:00 in the morning that night saying, if you hear this, if you get this email, I can do your tattoo, but if you don't respond to me before I leave, then I'll be booked up by the time I talk to you. And I happened to be online at the time the email came through and went, yes, I would like to do this. And we went over what it was and whatever. And so we went and did that and scheduled it. And so I get to the festival and I've asked a friend of mine from the house that I lived in and the guy that lived in Bloomington that I was following home to stand in for me at the ritual of doing the tattoo as somebody from my life before and the life I was going into to sort of bookend that. And both of them within 5-10 minutes of each other came up to me and said, I'm so sorry. I've been up all night at the drum circle and I am too exhausted to stand and hold space for you. And I went, okay, right? I didn't feel abandoned at all, really. No.
Oh my gosh.
Right?
Oh my gosh.
Right. But I'm just sitting there and I'm like, all right. So I go to the tattoo tent and I have to wake him up because he too was up all night at the drum circle, the tattoo artist.
Okay.
And so while I'm waiting for him to make his breakfast PB&J, yes. I go into the tent, which is one of those white BJ's tents, right?
Okay. Okay.
And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, maybe I just shouldn't do this, right? Didn't matter that a friend had actually come up to me before I left and said, I know you're going to, whinge about the price of this. So I'm just going to pay for it. Oh, and she handed me $400 for the tattoo.
That's how much tattoos cost? Holy
that's
smokes.
How much the ritual tattoo costs. Yeah.
Got it.
She handed me the money and I was like, she said, now you don't have an excuse to not spend the money on it because she knew, right? Gotcha. And so I'm sitting there despite this going, maybe I'm just not supposed to do this because they canceled on me and he's not awake and And I turned and I looked and there suspended by a single thread in the center of the tent was a spider. And I looked at her and I went, I got it. I'm getting the tattoo. And she crawled back up and disappeared.
Wow.
Right now, flash forward 25, 40 minutes later, he's up, he's mixing his inks. In the meantime, the flaps open and people are coming by and this random woman has wandered in and we're chatting and he gets ready. He's like, okay, I'm ready. He puts the tattoo stencil on my back and he says, okay, just state your intention, before we get, oh no, wait. She says, do you mind if I stay for the tattoo? And I said, well, and I looked at her really hard because whoever's there, their energy gets built into right? And I didn't know this woman. I didn't know her at all. And I looked at her and I looked at her and I looked at her. I was like, I surprised myself by saying, yeah, you can stay. And she's like, great. And so he said, okay, state your intention just before we get started so everybody's on the same page. And I said, well, my intention for the tattoo is to learn to walk the web of life gracefully before I learn to weave it. And she looked at me and she went, isn't that funny? And I said, what? She said, I am here. I have a booth here. And I weave, I spin my own thread and I weave my own cloth. And I'm selling my wares here, the things that I've woven. And I was just like, oh my God, right? Grandmother Spider sent me the perfect person. And I'm even getting chills again now telling the story, right? And he started chanting and I went into space and everybody's chanting and I'm gone. I'm just gone. And I'm in a vision with Grandmother Spider. And I'm in the room with her and I'm in tears. And we're in what looks like a castle, right? And in the center of the castle is this stone well coming up out of the center. And across the well is this spider web. And I'm across the room from it. And I'm just in tears going, thank you for deeming me worthy of sending me support. I really needed the support. And thank you, thank you. And Grandmother Spider just literally backhands me across the room. And she just sends me flying across the room. And she says, get up and walk over here. And we go over to the well. And she points at a strand in the web. And she said, you see how that strand is frayed and looks like it's going to break? And I said, yes. She said, I shore it up because it needs shoring up, not because it's worthy, not because it's important, but because it needs shoring up. It is no different than anything else. They all deserve the same attention. And I never want to hear the word worthy out of your mouth again. And I was like, noted. And she's like, did you ever ask if somebody was worthy of your healing? And I was like, no. She said, yeah, well, I don't ask it either. So shut up. Like, okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Straightforward much. I mean, wow.
Yeah. Well, I was heavily in my warrior at the time. There is a reason my last name is Sparta. I took it when I got divorced from my husband.
Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough.
Very heavily in my warrior self,
Yes,
man.
yes.
I have mellowed much in old age, but yeah, it was like
wow.
that.
Wow.
So,
wow.
Yeah.
That's
How long
amazing.
do we have for this podcast? I'm telling lots of stories here.
That's okay. Stories are good. We like stories. So here's the deal. I'm curious now. So what are the services that you offer now? Like, how can people reach out to you and learn more or, get a service that you offer?
Yeah. So the way that you work with me is you start off with a program that I call Inner Peace 101, which is finding emotional safety. And the reason you start there is because you cannot grow if you are constantly on the defensive. Growth requires leaving your comfort zone. And if you are already past your ability to cope bandwidth wise with all the things that you've got flying at your face, you're not going to grow. It's just not possible. And so the first program is designed to get you to the point where you are solid enough in yourself, where you're not constantly feeling defensive, where your anxiety levels have dropped dramatically, where you're feeling safe in your skin. And we do that emotionally and mentally and energetically as part of the process. And so that's the very first step to working with me. And you can do that by visiting my website at kellesparta.com and clicking on the online courses portion and reading the Inner Peace 101 details. And so awesome. That is the very first step. I run a whole mystery school. So the first 3 steps in the mystery school get you to the point where you are solid and complete on your own, where you feel comfortable in your own skin, and where all of your baggage is neatly labeled and carry-on sized. So, yeah.
You can do carry-on. That's good. That's good. And here's the deal. So for those who are not having immediate access to the show notes, could you spell out your name so that they can find it properly on the web?
Yes, it's my first name is the unusual part. It's Kelle, just E. It's not IE. It's not EY. It's not I. It's just E, Kelle. Last name is Sparta, like the Greek city state, right? Sparta. And it's kellesparta.com.
Perfect. Yeah. I just like to have that because, like, sometimes we listen to podcasts when we're doing other things like driving a car, etc. And so it's just good to have that because then you can just go back and like listen to it. Like, oh, okay. And then they'll remember that too. The fact that you said, Kelle with an E, just E,
Right.
That's a good catchphrase for people to remember that, or memory mnemonic, I guess. So, this has been such a fascinating conversation. I've been like, oh my gosh, these stories are so good. I love it. And because I love stories. I think we all kind of love stories, right? I mean, that's like how our human nature is to hear stories. We feel like we can identify with it. And as you were telling your story, of course, I was like, I was so engrossed because you did such a fantastic job describing things. And I think you like catered to my senses. And so I was like, oh yeah, I could totally see the web coming down and just a single fiber. And I could see her looking with all her eyes at you. And like, it totally was there. Like I was there in the tent with you. And I was like there when, they started chanting and they started working on your tattoo. So thank you for sharing that. We appreciate it. And so in such a vivid fashion, I think, it's one thing to have stories to tell, but it's another thing to tell them effectively and bring the audience in with you on the journey. So I appreciate that.
Thank you.
So here we are at the traditional piece of our show, and that is Kelle Sparta. Are you ready for fill in the blanks? Yes. All right. I'm so glad. All right, here we go.
I had to sit with these questions. I'm glad you sent them to me in advance.
Oh yeah. Some people are like, oh my God, what is this? I mean, I said to everybody in advance, but like some people still forget. And then they're like, I don't know. So I am glad that you looked at them because here we go. All right, Here we go. So the first one is, if I am fearless, I will
go big every time. I will choose the thing that is the biggest. I will choose the thing that is the scariest. I will choose the thing that is closest to my greatest aspiration.
Love it. The next one is, to me, fearless freedom means
having the power and the resources to say yes. And when I say power, I mean internal power, not external power. But the internal power and resources, I mean external. I mean money, right?
Right.
Because I want to have the money to be able to do what I want to do, right? And so if you're out there and you're thinking you're going to walk down a spiritual path and you're going to say, oh, but I don't need much money. Please ask for the damn money. Okay. Ask for the money. You need money to survive in this world. Please ask for the money. You're allowed. It's okay. Right. The money is what gives us the freedom to be able to do what we want to do and the power to be able to reach the people we need to reach.
Absolutely. Totally agree with that. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's a whole other conversation. I could talk about like money mindset and all that stuff. But yes, absolutely. You should be compensated for what you do because you are absolutely right. It requires that construct to be able to do things, right? I mean, money is a thing that we use to buy food to eat, etc.
Absolutely. Basic stuff. Other people get paid for what they do. Why wouldn't you get paid for what you do?
Exactly. I agree with you. Oh my gosh.
Hello.
Yeah. That's like I said, for us as women too, that's a big conversation. That's big conversation. Because we tend not to ask for what we deserve and what we are offering compensation. We should get that. So
and we think we deserve less than we do.
Exactly.
We think because it's easy for us that it isn't worth much. It's like, hello, if it's easy for you, you are in your zone of genius, which means that you are doing the thing that is worth more than anybody else's.
Absolutely. Say it again for those in the back.
I love you. That's awesome.
Oh my gosh. I'm telling you, it's something else, man. Something else. All right. And then last but not least, my battle cry is
yes. That's my battle cry. Yes.
I love that. I love it. Oh,
I'm a
my
yes
gosh.
girl. The more you say yes to, the more interesting your life becomes.
Truth. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to spend with us here at the Fearless Film Tribe. We appreciate you. We appreciate your perspective. And oh my, we loved how you told the story. So thank you so much for all of that.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me. This is a joy. I'm not usually the one doing the interviewing, so it's really nice to be interviewed.
Totally. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Fearless Freedom with Dr. G. Again, I'm Dr. G. And if you like this episode, be sure to subscribe so that you can get notified of when the next episode is going to be. And also, I'll catch you next time. Have a great one. Be strong, be brave, and unleash your greatness.